Never eat at Sainsbury's bakery again until you watch this, because the freshly baked bread you grab on autopilot might be the most convincing magic trick in the entire supermarket. You walk in for just milk. 2 minutes later, you're hovering by the bakery like a moth to a warm, buttery flame. That smell hits and your brain relaxes. Fresh, safe, comforting. Next thing you know, a baguette is in your trolley like it's a wholesome reward for surviving adulthood. But here's the twist. That smell isn't proof of old school baking. It's a retail weapon wrapped in nostalgia. And once you understand how supermarket bakeries actually work, how the bread arrives, how it's finished, how it's displayed, and what Bake Today quietly allows, you'll start looking at that crusty loaf like it's wearing a disguise. This matters because bread isn't a rare treat. It's daily life. Kids' sandwiches, toast before work, quick dinners. When something becomes that normal, you stop asking questions. And that's exactly when brands get comfortable. So let's pull the curtain back on Sainsbury's bakery gently but firmly, because the truth is a lot less cozy than the lighting over those wooden shelves. The bakery fantasy versus the factory reality. Most people hear bakery and picture a proper scene. Flour on the counter, dough being mixed, someone shaping loaves, trays sliding into ovens. The classic "it was made here" story. Now, for the reality check. In modern supermarkets, a huge amount of fresh bakery runs through what the industry calls a bake-off system. Products often arrive frozen or part-baked from industrial sites, and the store's job is to finish them, prove them, bake them, brown them, and get them out fast. So yes, something can be baked in store and still have started its life as a factory product weeks ago, frozen in time like a car-based time capsule. If you've ever wondered why supermarket bread looks so identical from store to store, this is why. The shape, size, color, even the way the crust cracks, designed for consistency, not personality. Real bakeries vary, industrial systems don't. Here's a behind-the-scenes picture most shoppers never imagine. It's 5 a.m. The store is quiet, the lights are harsh, and the bakery area feels less like a charming cafe and more like a mini production line. Trays come out of freezers, racks get wheeled around, timers start screaming, and everything becomes a race. Get items proved, get ovens loaded, get the first fresh wave out before commuters start storming in. If the bake plan says 12 trays by 7:30, that's what happens. Whether you feel like you're lovingly crafting bread or just trying not to set off the fire alarm again. The product isn't born in the store. It's finished there under pressure. And here's a wow moment. The baking you smell is often scheduled like a performance. Stores use timed batches so warm bread hits the floor when footfall is highest. A tray coming out warm at 5 p.m. isn't a coincidence, it's strategy. Also, the word bakery makes you imagine skilled bakers. In reality, many supermarket bakery roles are closer to production than craft. Loading trays, setting temperatures, rotating stock, following checklists, and keeping up with demand. Again, none of this is automatically evil, but it is very different from the story in your head. So the first shock isn't that Sainsbury's has a system. Of course it does. The shock is how easily the branding makes you forget there is a system at all, what's in the loaf, and why it behaves like a pillow. Second shock, ingredients and process. Traditional bread is simple and impatient. It goes stale quickly. It has moods. It's basically a relationship that requires effort. Supermarkets don't have time for moody bread, so mass bread production often leans on improvers, a catch-all world of enzymes, emulsifiers, and processing aids that make dough rise faster, stay softer, and behave predictably. They're the backstage crew holding the whole show together, keeping crumb structure consistent, helping loaves keep volume, and making slices stay bendy instead of snapping like cardboard. In the UK, one of the biggest "how is this even possible" stories is how common rapid bread making methods are. A famous example is the trolley wood bread process, which uses intense mixing to speed up dough development dramatically. Instead of long fermentation doing the work slowly, mechanical force and improvers help produce soft bread at scale. That's how you can get mountains of fluffy loaves cheaply, all day, every day. Now add pastries and it gets even sneakier. That glossy shine on a bun, often a glaze designed to make it look fresher than it feels. That buttery aroma, sometimes it's real butter, sometimes it's flavoring, sometimes it's fats chosen because they're stable and cheap. Fillings and icings can carry more sugar and saturated fat than you'd ever guess from the innocent little size of the thing. And because bakery treats are displayed like cute casual snacks, people underestimate them. One donut feels harmless until you remember it's basically dessert pretending to be breakfast. And because it's sold next to bread, our mental mental symbol of basic food, your brain quietly files it under not that bad. That's how a quick snack turns into a sugar hit you didn't plan, and why parents swear they only bought one, then somehow there are none left by the time you get home. And here's the sneaky psychological trick. Loose bakery items feel more natural because they're not in packaging. You don't see a long label in your hand, so your brain assumes it's just flour, water, yeast, salt. Simple, wholesome, probably fine. But if you ever check the ingredient and allergen information provided for bakery lines, or compare to packaged equivalents, you'll often find it's more complex than the rustic vibe suggests. Not for every product, not every time, but enough that the fresh counter equals simple food. Assumption collapses. Another wow moment. Marketing terms can be vibes, not guarantees. Stone-baked, artisan, rustic, sourdough style. These phrases can describe look and texture more than method. A loaf can taste tangy and still be made with added flavor notes or a small amount of starter alongside commercial yeast. If you want the real deal, you have to check what's actually listed, not just what the sign makes you feel. Here's another detail that sounds small until you picture it. Baked today doesn't tell you when. It could be 6 a.m., which means by the time you buy it at 7 p.m., it's been sitting out for 13 hours, drying under store air, getting handled, then wrapped in a paper bag that traps steam and turns the crust chewy. Ever bitten into a roll that's warmish but weirdly rubbery? That's the fresh illusion fighting physics. Supermarkets can also refresh items by briefly rebaking them to crisp the outside again, which makes day-old bread smell new for a few minutes. It's like spraying perfume on yesterday's hoodie. You're not necessarily being poisoned, but you are being persuaded. And when you're feeding kids or budgeting, that matters because you're paying fresh bakery prices for something that might already be halfway to stale when you pick it up. If that sounds dramatic, try buying the same loaf early versus late and compare the texture night and day, honestly. So no, you're not crazy for thinking supermarket bread feels different. It is different. It's designed to be consistent, not necessarily minimal. The open display problem. Your pastry has had a day out. Now, let's hit the bit people hate imagining. The public life of bakery food. Those open shelves and self-serve tongs feel quaint. They also mean your croissant has been on a little social tour. People drift past all day talking, laughing, breathing, coughing. Someone leans in to read a label and accidentally gives the tray a warm little cloud of breath. A child points so close their sleeve nearly brushes a donut. Someone picks up a roll, squeezes it like it's a stress ball, then puts it back because apparently we're all auditioning for a bread documentary. And don't get me started on the tongs. The same tongs that get touched by hands that also touch phones, baskets, wallets, steering wheels, and whatever else people have been doing in the car park. Your pastry is not just a pastry, it's a group project. Is this happening every second? No. But the key point is this. Open display, freshness comes with exposure, and exposure comes with risk. You might be fine, you might be unlucky. Either way, the bakery section is not sealed, controlled, or private. It's public. Add allergens, and it gets serious fast. Bakeries handle seeds, nuts, dairy, eggs, gluten, often in the same space, sometimes with shared trays and surfaces. Procedures exist, sure, but supermarkets are busy and humans are human. If you have allergies or you're buying for someone vulnerable, you cannot treat that counter like a cozy village bakery. It's high traffic food, the smell that steals your wallet. Now for the part that makes you laugh, then feel personally attacked, the bakery smell. Bakeries are positioned where they can influence you. Smell is one of the strongest shopping triggers. It creates comfort, lowers stress, and makes you hungry even if you just ate. It nudges you to wander. It makes you more generous with yourself. Go on, treat yourself. Suddenly you're buying 2 pastries and telling yourself it's for the family when you live alone. And here's the scary bit. Smell doesn't just tempt you, it reduces scrutiny. When you feel comforted, you ask fewer questions. You don't think about whether that bread started frozen. You don't think about how long it's been out. You don't think about additives or handling. You just feel safe. So the bakery isn't only selling bread, it's selling a mood, a vibe, a little edible reassurance that life is under control. And Sainsbury's knows that. Every major supermarket knows that. The warm trays, the timing, the placement. It's retail psychology in a cardigan. So should you actually panic? No. Don't sprint out of Sainsbury's clutching a baguette like it's evidence in a true crime documentary. But you should stop treating the bakery as automatically healthier or cleaner just because it smells nice and looks rustic. The real shock isn't that supermarkets have systems. It's how easily the bakery aesthetic makes you forget there's a supply chain, a production method, a timing strategy, and an exposure factor behind the scenes. If you want to shop smarter, start doing 3 things. Pause when you see baked in store, and remember it doesn't mean made in store. Check ingredient and allergen info when it matters to you. And don't assume open display equals purity, because we haven't even touched the darker parts yet. Waste. What happens to unsold trays, staff pressure when the bake plan is behind, and the allergen reality that people only learn about after something goes wrong. That's next, because once you hear what happens when the clock is ticking and the trays aren't selling, you'll understand why freshly baked is not the same as freshly made, and why Sainsbury's bakery might be the most polite-looking risk in your weekly shop. The food waste problem nobody wants to watch. Let's start with what happens when the bakery freshness doesn't sell. Supermarkets love the word fresh, but fresh has a nasty side effect. A ticking clock. Bread and pastries have a short display life, and the bakery section is judged on how full, how abundant, how tempting it looks. Empty shelves don't just look bad, they look like failure. So stores keep baking, topping up, and keeping the display looking generous, even when footfall is slow. And when those trays don't shift, that's where the uncomfortable part lives. Bakery waste is massive across the supermarket industry, because the bakery is designed to look plentiful first and efficient second. A loaf that's baked today at 6 a.m. isn't going to be a hero at 8 p.m. A croissant that's been sitting under warm store air all day isn't exactly screaming luxury. Customers start squeezing, comparing, hesitating. The bakery becomes a beauty contest, and anything slightly tired gets ignored. You can literally watch it happen. In the morning, everything looks like it's posing for a photo shoot. By late afternoon, the same section has that end of the party energy. Slightly drier rolls, pastries that have lost their crisp, and that one lonely baguette that looks like it's been through a breakup. So what happens to the unsold stuff? Some items get reduced near closing. Some may be donated through food redistribution partners where applicable. And yes, some still gets binned, because the system prioritizes a full display over a perfect match between supply and demand. Here's the eyebrow raiser. When a system is built around the illusion of constant freshness, it creates pressure to keep producing even when demand isn't there. The bakery display becomes theater, and the audience is your wallet. If you've ever walked in late and seen a mountain of baked goods still sitting there, it's not because the store is being generous. It's because the machine doesn't stop just because customers do. The fresh again glow-up trick morcho. Now let's talk about the thing that makes people go, wait, you can do that? Bread doesn't stay perfect all day. It dries, it toughens. The crust goes from crunchy to chewy. Pastries lose that delicate flake. And supermarkets know this because they can see it happening in real time on the shelves. So the industry has a few ways to refresh the look and feel of bakery items. One is timing. Bake smaller batches so warm items hit the floor at peak traffic moments, which makes the whole section feel constantly alive. Another is rotation and presentation. The best looking items get placed front and center, while tired looking ones drift to the edge like they've been grounded. And then there's the glow up you don't notice, re-crisping. In some bakery operations, items can be briefly re-warmed or re-crisped, so they smell incredible again for a short window. It's not witchcraft, it's heat doing what heat does. The outside perks up, the aroma returns, and suddenly something that was heading toward sad roll territory looks like it just came out of the oven. Does that mean it's unsafe? Not automatically. But it does mean the smell can be misleading. You're smelling a moment, not the full history. It's like meeting someone who looks amazing because they just left the barber. You're not seeing the week they had before that. And here's an even weirder detail. The bag can change the story too. Put warm bread in a paper bag and the steam softens the crust. Put it in plastic and you trap moisture, turning crisp into chewy in minutes. So sometimes you buy a loaf that smelled incredible, only to get home and wonder why it now feels like a warm pillow with commitment issues. This is also why reductions can feel confusing. That yellow sticker is basically the store admitting this is not going to live its best life for much longer. Reduced bakery items aren't magical bargains that appeared out of nowhere. They're products approaching the end of their ideal eating window. If you buy them, you're buying time. Eat them now, freeze them now, or accept that your toaster is about to enter a heroic era. And a quick reality check. Bakery items are handled a lot. Trays get moved, checked, topped up, rotated. Customers pick things up, then put them back. The same product can go from center stage to the please take me home corner in a matter of hours. The counter feels calm and cozy, but the products are living a busy public life. Staff pressure. When fresh becomes a deadline. Now let's talk about the human side, because this is where the cozy image starts to wobble. Supermarket bakery teams aren't operating in a peaceful artisan bubble. They're operating in a labor-controlled environment where timing matters, waste targets matter, and availability matters. There are bake plans, proofing schedules, oven cycles, and peak time expectations. It's not bake when it's ready. It's bake so it's ready when the store needs it. And remember that bake-off system we talked about? That comes with its own rhythm. Frozen or part-baked products need thawing and proofing. Proofing cabinets are basically warm, humid boxes that help dough rise on schedule. When everything's running smoothly, it's fine. But if timing slips, the whole chain reaction starts. Trays back up, ovens queue, the clock starts shouting. When the morning rush hits, the bakery has to look perfect. When lunchtime hits, it has to look perfect again. When the after-work crowd hits, it has to look perfect again. That means constant output, constant checking, constant movement. And if the plan slips, if a delivery is late, if equipment fails, if someone calls in sick, pressure climbs fast. Under pressure, mistakes become more likely. Not because people don't care, but because people are human and supermarkets run hot. The faster you're expected to move, the harder it is to keep everything at its best. That can mean slightly overbaked items, rushed handling, missed rotations, and a general just get it out vibe that customers never see. And the subtle consequence, quality gets inconsistent. One day the rolls are perfect, the next they're a bit pale, the next they're crunchy enough to sand wood. You're not imagining it. That's what happens when food is produced under a schedule, not a craft process. Here's the emotional beat. The bakery is sold to you as warmth and comfort, but behind the scenes, it can be stress and speed. The bread you buy as a cozy little treat is often produced in a work environment that feels more like logistics than love. So when you're thinking fresh, also think deadline, because those are closer than you realize. The allergen reality that can turn serious. Fast, deep breath, because this part isn't funny. If you or someone in your family has serious allergies, the supermarket bakery counter deserves extra caution. In a bakery environment, allergens are everywhere. Sesame seeds, nuts, dairy, eggs, soy plus flour dust in the air, and crumbs on surfaces. Even when processes exist to reduce risk, cross-contact can happen through shared equipment, shared trays, shared tongs, and busy hands moving fast. And the scariest part is how innocent it looks. A loaf is a loaf, a bun is a bun, but a single seed, a smear of glaze, a trace of nut filling on a surface can be enough to trigger a severe reaction for some people. Also, don't underestimate the self-serve factor. People touch the tongs, people touch the bags, people touch the labels, then touch the tongs again. Your pastry isn't just sitting there, it's living in a public space with the hygiene standards of a busy train station. That's why allergen information and may contain warnings exist. In high-volume environments, absolute guarantees are hard. So, if you have allergies, don't rely on vibes. Don't rely on it looks plain. Don't rely on wishful thinking. Check the provided allergen guidance. Ask staff if you need to, and if there's any doubt, choose a sealed product with clear labeling where the risk feels more controlled, because the bakery counter is designed to make food look simple. Allergens are designed to prove that simple can be deceptive. What to do next and why this matters. Here's the practical escape route, because I'm not here to ruin bread forever. I'm here to ruin blind trust. First, stop letting the smell make decisions for you. Enjoy it, sure, but don't confuse a comforting scent with a comforting system. Second, if you want bread that's genuinely simple, look for products with the shortest ingredient lists and clearer labeling. That can be in-store, packaged, or from a local bakery. The point isn't perfection, it's awareness. Third, treat bakery reductions like a tool, not a trap. If you're buying reduced pastries, make it intentional. Eat them same day, freeze them, toast them, revive them. Don't buy them thinking you've hacked the system. You've just adopted a product with a shorter runway. Fourth, if you want a quick freshness test, do this. Buy one bakery item early in the day and the same item late in the day, then compare them at home. The difference in texture will tell you more than any sign ever will. And finally, if you love the ritual of fresh bread, consider supporting an actual local baker when you can, even once in a while. Not because supermarkets are evil, but because real bakeries are honest about what they are. They don't need lighting and scent to convince you. The bottom line is this: Sainsbury's bakery isn't one big scandal. It's something quieter and arguably more important. It's the way modern retail turns comfort into a product, simplicity into a marketing story, and freshness into a timed performance. Nothing here is about panic. It's about perspective. So next time you're standing there, about to grab that shiny roll because it smells like home, pause for 2 seconds and ask, am I hungry or am I being marketed to? And if you've ever thought, it's just bread, what's the big deal? Remember, the big deal is how easily comfort can hide a system you never agreed to quietly. If this video made you look at supermarket bakeries differently, Drop your experience in the comments, especially if you've ever bought something that looked perfect and tasted like disappointment 5 minutes later. And if you know someone who lives for a freshly baked impulse buy, send this to them. They deserve the truth before they adopt another baguette. Like the video, subscribe to this channel for more deep dives into the brands and restaurants we all trust a little too easily, and turn on notifications, because the next one might be about your favorite healthy meal.